All right, welcome to the good stuff. This is the big episode 49. Mouse cursor
has been removed by
off,
popular demand.
off the screen by popular demand.
That's
Just
it.
check in. All right, and we're only recording on one microphone today, so this should be, well, two wireless microphones,
yeah.
but like,
Yeah.
one stream.
Better quality.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Slight echo last week. Sorry about that, everybody.
Can never rule out the quality.
You get what you get.
Yeah. We find out at the end of the episode with everyone else.
Yeah.
We got a big milestone next week.
The
big
episode
5-0.
49 plus 1.
Yeah, that's the way. That's the way, isn't it?
It's not a bit that big yet. It will be next week. I can imagine.
That's next week's big episode.
Do we have a special guest? I haven't got any.
No, we should probably get onto that.
There's a bunch of people I need to get back to asking that have said they'll come on. So maybe we see if we get one for next week. We'll see.
The
see if it works.
celebratory big 5-0.
Yeah,
Solid.
that'd be nice.
Yeah.
All right.
That was a good episode last week. I enjoyed it, despite the audio quality. It was solid. I really enjoyed
Yeah.
having Dead Man on.
It's
He's become
useful
a
to
regular.
have a third person to bounce off.
Yeah.
I think, which
Yeah.
is good. Not that it's not nice.
Of course.
To talk to yourself.
The OGs.
I mean, well, we've been doing this for 6 years or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not like it's,
Yeah.
if we hadn't run out of steam, I think in the first 5 years,
That's
then maybe the extra year of recording it,
Yeah.
it should be fine.
I think
I think that's what we're
there's
saying. We're like
yeah.
a diesel engine when it comes to talking at the beach for a couple of hours.
The diesel engine is like
It
somewhat,
warms up and keeps going.
yeah, somewhat like less reliable this week with the shortage of diesel.
It's not less reliable. It's just expensive.
Yeah.
I was able to fill up the van, but I did have
Yeah.
a moment when I did, and I was like, "Fuck me, this is expensive all of a sudden."
Yeah. For anyone who doesn't know, we live in Australia. It's an
Yeah.
island, and apparently we have very little oil stockpiled. So
Yeah,
fun.
I mean, I haven't seen any issues at the pump.
Not
I mean,
locally,
beyond the fact that it's
The price,
expensive. But
yeah.
I mean, I think most of the oil that comes in is we're not drawing stockpiles. That would be
I think most of the issues have been
Issues,
out
but-
in regional communities for the most
yeah.
part.
Okay,
and
that would make more
those
sense.
tend to stress pretty quickly anyway.
Yeah.
If you get bad weather event, flood, something happens, they tend to have
Yeah.
these shortages kick in pretty quick.
I would imagine there's probably a lot of private stockpiles up in the mines as well, and obviously they use, is it the red diesel or whatever? Like it's a slightly
Yeah.
different type of diesel that they use up there, but
Well, there was a
it's there in
mining,
abundance, but
there's a local mining company that they grounded all of their staff because of the I don't know if it was a cost issue or if it was just a shortage issue or what it was, but yeah, it was oil related. And I think that news came out yesterday, so they just they've grounded all of their.
I mean, the two things
Their
are
personnel.
kind of one and the same, right? Like you can't really have a shortage without a cost issue.
Yeah, I don't know if it was like an associated cost issue, if like other costs were blowing out, or if it was just we don't have like the
Enough diesel.
don't have enough diesel to run. Yeah.
There you go. So that's a bit of
Yeah.
local flavour for you there. So that's what's happening here. I mean, you wouldn't know it. Like today, we're sat
Sat at the beach.
another beautiful day.
You can hear an engine idling in the background. Seems to be fine.
So
Yeah.
it's apparently is no
Ambient
issues.
engine noise in the background.
Ambient diesel. It's being burned. Why not? Yeah. So
Yes. What do we want to cover today?
what?
I have one actually. I had a friend,
Okay.
and I know we've touched on this in the past. We don't need to dwell on it. But I have a friend of mine on the weekend. He's got 2 young kids, probably a few years older than your eldest, in high school, and he was like, he gets a sense that they're just not even thinking about this directionally in terms of like what should their future careers look like, what kind of things should they be studying, how can they be becoming a little bit more AI native.
I don't think any kids should be thinking about what their future career is.
No, I'm talking about the parents.
Yeah. Okay.
He's like, that's something that he and his wife have been like trying to
Okay.
work out. It's like, what are the implications here? How should we be like,
Yeah.
steering them? What kind of advice should we be giving them? And I was like, oh, this is interesting that it's just not even, like someone's thinking about it obviously because you brought it up, but it's just not a thing in the kind of the zeitgeist yet. And I don't necessarily think it came from a place of like fear that like whatever kind of I don't know university track they go into, there's not going to be a job at the other end of it. I think it was just more like, how do they best prepare for it?
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting. It was good. It was a good chat because I don't know the answer. It's like literally, because I don't have kids, and I'm like, I don't actually know. I think it's going to be really fluxy.
Well,
But I was talking about this through the lens of like, how do you just build, how do you build skills and then demonstrate that you have a skill? And it's like the classic portfolio career, you know, it's just go out and build things, do things, show people, don't tell people. And I feel like you could almost have like a little like portfolio of little tools and tidbits that you've built, and that would actually be quite a good way to demonstrate AI competence.
Yeah, I mean, certainly in the near term, like, I think there's a definite like role for like the person in a business that understands this shit better than everybody else, because like it's going to be such huge leverage that if you're the one that understands it, you're going to be employable all over the place. The best way to show that you understand it is to like have stuff automated with it and to be using it in your day-to-day life. And that doesn't need to be in a business. It could just be, you know, maybe it's just managing your home calendar with wife and kids, or like if it's the kids, maybe it's managing your, you know, if you turn up and you've got all your schoolwork is just getting complete, like, you know, like if you came to me and you said, oh, you know, I probably shouldn't show you this, but like I put my homework in, I talk my homework into this bot, and then it defines it all, it does all the research for me, it produces all these different things, it schedules it all out, it builds its own homework timetable, then it does my homework for me and sends me back, and then I edit it and stick it in so it doesn't look AI generated. I'd be like, job.
Pretty good.
I mean, I'm not trying to hire anybody, but I would hire that person.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be like, oh, you're a high agency and you can think through problems and how to solve them with this tool. So you should get your kids to absolutely cheat on their homework.
Yeah, I agree.
Because like, who cares about the academic qualifications when you can develop agents?
Well, it's a feature, right?
Doing stuff. It's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah,
it's treated as a bug, but
it is. And you see this playing out with schools wanting to ban AI in the classroom, and I mean, to be fair, you kind of see this playing out across other areas as well. Like certain states are looking at like restricting AI use in various areas, like legal applications and even healthcare and stuff like this. And it's like, these are symptomatic of the same problem, I think, to some degree. It's just like the onus should be on the teacher to come up with a better way of assessing competency, rather than trying to like force a rote approach.
It kind of becomes, it's not even like the assessment of the competency. Beyond is like, well, what is the competency that we're really training for here? Like,
exactly.
Like, why? It's probably been this way for a long time, even from like Wikipedia, fucking Encarta on a CD-ROM sort of days was like
old school.
Why the fuck are we trying to remember stuff anymore? Like, why is the core competency that we want people to be trained on? Can you remember 12 facts? You know, like in a weird space. It's like even before that we had encyclopedia. You could write this shit down. It's just, it's not that useful to remember stuff. Like, I
always found the assessment mechanism, even when I was at uni, it was a long time ago, was always kind of contrary to how real life works. You know, it's like you've got a 3-hour exam, you're not allowed any resources, you can't talk to anyone. It's just you and what you remember from the past. And you've got to get as much of it on paper as possible. And if someone writes faster than you and they can recall a little bit more than you, they're probably going to get a slightly better grade than you. And I was always like, where in real life do we actually work like this? In isolation, we're not allowed to cite materials, we're not allowed to talk to other people, we're not allowed to collaborate. It was purely just like, okay, now you've got to write as much diarrhea on the page as possible.
And why would that be desirable?
Exactly.
Like, I mean, without like bagging out the entire school system.
We can do that too, though.
Appears to be based on like, was it like Prussian military indoctrination? It's basically like what we do. It's like, I don't know if I need my kids to be like
Prussian
supplicant to the Prussian army or whatever. Like, but you know, that's the basis of the whole thing. But you think I don't think it really trains you for anything that you need, and it's even when you're in school, like it becomes obvious because you're like, well, I do this in school, in this level of schooling, I do this, and then I go to the next level up, and you instantly tell me to just forget everything that I learned at level down because it was all nonsense. It's like, well, all right, there's a lesson to be learned there. It's like, is it always nonsense? Like, what the hell? If it's always nonsense, then why am I learning it over and over again? Why did I learn it in the first place? Couldn't I just learn the normal thing that's correct? It's like, well, I guess you could have done, but we don't teach you like that. It's like, all right. I don't know, like there's just so much.
There is a broader question here about credentialing. in the world of AI as well. Like, I don't know how this is going to work, because if, last week the controversial thing that was being shared was Anthropic's chart that was going to show like how much of certain professions.
You mentioned this last week, but we didn't.
Yeah, we didn't.
Into it.
We didn't explore it much.
I haven't seen this chart.
I mean,
so.
I don't really know what to make of the chart. It's basically just like if you read it, you
the
just get like all of the white.
That's the psychopaths, as we discussed last week.
Yes. all of the white collar, like high status professions are basically at risk of being. Well, I don't know. Maybe their framing was AI will just have a greater role. I think some people interpret it as like you just wipe out large sections of these professions, and I don't know.
It doesn't wipe anything out.
I don't know what the angle was there exactly, but it was focused around these kind of like high status professions, white collar professions. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. Like most of these professions are built on foundations of credentialing. You know, you go to certain universities, which university, what your GPAs were, then where did you get your work experience, where did you get your graduate job, like everything is basically like constantly leveling up, and it's just about like acquiring brand names on a piece of paper. Like what did you do in that like first role? Did you just like buy coffee or like order all the coffees and do the photocopying? Like that's not valuable, but you've got the brand name on the CV. So I think the credentialing aspect was really important, and now I'm just like, okay, well, again, demonstrating competency through like a portfolio of all of these things that you're building and doing and sharing and open sourcing, and like that feels like it's a much more powerful way to go and demonstrate competence. But also, like, if you're doing it for that reason, maybe that's also the wrong framing. It's just like be high agency and build, and then like those opportunities will flow, which again is contrary to how people tend to like engineer their careers.
I think the way I would look at that is to say that credentialing is a proxy for somebody else to make a decision on something, right? So I think I would probably think about this in two ways. One is that if there are no more big companies, which is a big thing to say, so it's not, that's like one end of a spectrum. But I think we'll tend towards that. I think companies are way smaller, and there's more companies and they're smaller, is I think where we go. God, it's already overloaded. We'll keep going. So the laptop's quite hot today because we're in the van.
It's a warm day.
Yeah, so I think what you end up with is more small companies. Yeah. And therefore, the problem of interviewing, I think, is going to be less, anonymous. So I don't think you end up with like everybody wanting to work for Google and Google have to sift through like 100,000 applications. I think you're going to end up like more jobs or working with people based on social connection and locality and things like this, and you'll actually just already know people before you're interviewing them. If we're still doing interviewing. And the other part of that is that I think it's more likely to be that you are just your own business. And so you actually don't need to credential anybody. You actually just need to do something.
Yeah.
Because I think there's going to be very little jobs for like just sitting around processing things.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure, like, it's like you're either doing it, I think, in which case like, oh cool, let's do it together. Or you are basically an agent and a couple of scripts. So I may as well just get an agent and a couple of scripts, because it's going to be cheaper. Like if there's a job that I can define well enough to have a pool of like 10,000 people interview for it, then I should probably just go that extra 5% and automate it. So I think you get rid of a lot of those sorts of jobs that required credentials. Therefore, credentials don't matter, and you just have to do stuff. And so you may as well just do it because you're working for yourself. So that's one angle. And the next one would be, I think if you did work with people, it's going to be so. I think you're going to lower the barrier to like. It would be so easy to just work with somebody for like 2 to 5 days and figure out, okay, are these people, can they do stuff or not?
Yeah.
Like there's no, like it used to be that you might have somebody in a job role for like 6 to 12 months, and then there's all the legislation that goes along with that. For like, okay, now you've got them forever, even if they're shit, particularly like in the UK or somewhere. Yeah. They've updated a lot of those laws.
It's very common here.
I imagine it's worse in Europe, and it'd be pretty similar here.
Yeah.
Is that, you you're kind of stuck. It's like really high risk interviewing people. Whereas I think in where we're going, what you're going to find is that you'll do like 2 days of work with somebody, and you already know 2 days in whether they can get a lot of stuff done.
Yeah.
And if they can't get a lot of stuff done using a lot of the agents that you would have in your business anyway, then you're probably not going to work with them.
Yeah.
Because if they're just, there's not a person there that you need to check if they can still process a spreadsheet 6 months down the line. That won't be a job. So I think the credentials go away because you can either test almost immediately whether they can do what you think they're going to do, because they'll start generating output quickly, or you just don't need them because you're working for yourself.
Yeah.
So I think from both sides, like I don't think we need credentials in the same way.
Yeah. I think there's also, I think that's very applicable in like SME land for sure. But there's also like industries where you've got a lot of regulation around, membership, but also a lot of legislation around the types of work that you would be doing as well and how you're able to do it. And like the legal profession is obviously one, but like even in engineering, like, how many projects for dams or bridges are there that you can go and work on to build your experience, or get some experience in that space? So there are like these natural constraints, and then it's like, how do you go and assess, like if you're a new or graduate engineer, how do you go and get the experience on those bigger projects, on those projects that you may want to work on in the future? If there's a finite number of them, but the companies that are your GHDs of the world, or your kind of year engineers that traditionally would do those kinds of bigger projects, might run on like way lower headcount. So there is this like hurdle rate that you've just got to account for. It's like, how do I then go and get the experience on those kinds of projects when there are these constraints?
Do you think that's like a different thing, or do you think it's just like just like a different slider on the scale, on the spectrum there, where you think that like, because they're definitely going to get impacted by a lot of these tools, and you would still want the engineer that's very good at doing stuff with the tools. I see what you mean about like, there's from like a safety point of view, there's like a certain standard and things, but I kind of feel like we solved that institutional, like we've institutionalized a lot of engineering, right? Even like say the chartered engineering is not an academic thing. It's a practical application. So I think you still have like guilds and charters and apprenticeships and things like that. So, it strikes me, if I was, even just like this idea that like there's no junior engineering roles, or there will be no junior lawyers. It's like that is just so untrue. Yeah. Like it flies in the face of humans being humans. And you're like, if you are a good senior lawyer, you will find you're not just going to go, oh, I guess I will just sit here alone for the rest of my days and then die. You'll just say, you know what, at a minimum, I'm going to train one person to also do this. Yeah. And I've learned how to use these tools. They might even know how to use the tools better than I do, and I'll pass on my knowledge and we'll share. Yeah. And so I think at a minimum you get like one-on-one apprenticeships of people that already know how to do it, train the new people that are coming through. I don't think you necessarily get this like, I don't know, like let's say conveyor belt of like university education and credentials and stuff.
I think you still do, but you just don't put as much stock in it.
Well, I just don't mean you need it.
You don't need it, exactly.
Is what I'm saying, I guess. Yeah. So I don't mean you need that. Like, all right, we actually need 100,000 engineers, like just in case. It's like, well, no, the people that want to be engineers will go and do engineering entrepreneurships and stuff.
A lot of ambient noise today.
A lot of ambient noise, yeah. And the ones that won't, it's fine. Like, we'll figure out the right numbers, because they'll get paid tons of money if there's not enough of them, and they'll not get paid as much money if there's too few of them, and then that'll regulate. People will skill up quicker. And I think you will have a lot more of this, like, informal, smaller people. Like, you'll have people that vouch for people, you'll have credentialing organizations, let's say, like chartered engineers and stuff like that would manage this. I think a lot of the academic, like the idea of, like there's a huge difference though between this idea of being like an engineer and doing engineering at university, which is what I did. And like doing engineering at university is very much like pretending to be an engineer for 4 years while you go to parties and have a drink. Whereas being an engineer for 4 years is you actually create a lot of stuff in the world. It's a very practical job. And so I came out of university with an engineering degree and a master's, and you know, like I needed to do like a year of practice or something to get to chartered standard, and it was like, this is a bit of a cheat. Like, I don't know anything that I should know in this space, and now I need to go and be practical. Like, this was just a nice excuse to have fun. So I think a lot more of the pretend stuff in the world goes away, and I think a lot of universities pretend. You know, like there's a lot of ambient noise.
Yeah, the ambient noise has definitely ratcheted up.
But yeah, so I don't know. Like, how does this match your experience of, like, say, legal? Because you did legal stuff at university, right?
It was law and corporate finance.
And it must have felt a little bit similar, right?
Yeah,
of course. You play law and corporate finance. You're not doing any of it. Like,
well, I mean, I was even worse because I started my first company while I was at uni.
Yeah, okay. So you did something else.
So I did something else, essentially. I think that's all correct. I think there's, like, maybe the second order effect, though, that this is like the stuff that Luke Groman was talking about on what Bitcoin did. I think, I'm going off memory because I've listened to him on 2 different podcasts recently. I can't quite remember if I'm mixing them up, but he was talking about, you know, like the hollowing out of Detroit as like as a proxy for this stuff. It's like, you know, you do just have these broader economic impacts. You know, I mentioned this last week, like maybe you don't need AI coming along and sweeping out 50% of jobs. Like, you know, in our economy, the tipping point's like 5% unemployment, and then everything, you know, tends to blow up. And then you just have like a cascading effect that kind of, you know, ripples its way through the economy. And so, but I think you're right, longer term, I think these things stabilize. Markets will market. But yeah, to say, I do just think it will be like way more messy than.
Oh, I don't disagree with that. I think you will.
Would suggest that, because I do think, like, we not us necessarily, but like the conversation in general tends to drift towards like these two polarities. It's like it's all doom and gloom, and we're all fucked, and it's all hype, and nothing's going to happen. And I just don't think either of those things are true.
No, I mean, it doesn't match like any of the lived experience, right? Like I was chatting to you, friend of the pod, Paul, before this session. And there was a comment that I thought was a good line. So it's a good quote, Wingman, for the transcript. But I said, like, look, I mean, the line I use is like, my experience doesn't match your hot take, so maybe the hot take is wrong. It wasn't his hot take. It was just a generic hot take of like AIs are supposed to make me more dumb. It's like, I'm not doing any of the hands-on coding with these things, therefore I'm not learning anything. I've learned so much more about coding and systems and working with these things through building and trial and error and testing than I ever have done at any other point in my career. And I'm like, all right, well, my experience here doesn't match your hot take. Like, it doesn't make me dumb. And it's like, all right, well, the next one is that, like, it's going to deliver all the jobs and nobody's going to get any work. It's like, I am just delivering so much more stuff and enjoying it so much more now that I have so much more agency and there's less of these blockers in my way. It's like they're all instantly cleared. Like, so again, your hot take doesn't match my experience here of you. I mean, this was the whole point of that, you know, touch, don't look session, right? Was like, everyone's got a hot take, but the experience of working with these things does not match the hot take. So you have to experience working with them. Now, whether you've got enough problems or enough agency to do anything with this afterwards is going to be, that's downstream, that's on you. Like, I can't make you have more agency over these things, but they work. There's definitely something there. And so you need to check your experience against the hot takes.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, it's like, I feel like I've been working way more as well. Like, it's not even the productivity aspect, it's like you're getting more done. It's like, no, I just want to do this because it's interesting and fun, and you can be creative, and the tools allow all of that stuff, but you're also learning. And I get it. I think a lot of people are like, we're also working with this stuff, like, you know, all day, every day.
More than the average person.
More than the average person. So their experience is probably going to be a little bit more skewed. And the rate of growth is going to be way flatter for those people. And so maybe they defer some of that judgment two other talking heads, but yeah. I think my experience matches as well. Like, I know I've said this a bunch of times. There's no way the stuff I'm doing now. There's no way I could have done that a year ago. Let alone 3 months. Like, even 3 months is like an eternity in terms of the stuff that
it's
I'm
nuts,
working
right?
on.
I just don't use the tools that I used to use.
Yeah.
Like, I would just, I was talking about, I was explaining like some of the Wingman journey to Paul earlier. I was like, it's interesting that I had a version and then I just rewrote the whole thing pretty much while sat in an airport waiting lounge. It's kind of nuts. I was like, and all like the guts and the main stuff was there. Like I'd used the thing enough that I knew exactly how I wanted it structured in the next version, and then it came very quickly. There was a version there very quickly, and then obviously I iterate on it over time to improve it. But it's interesting like how quickly software can be replaced, updated, changed. Just it's I don't know. It's gonna be true of so much stuff.
I think that's the bit I'm finding I'm enjoying more as well. It's like the tooling enables like you to shift between these like, I don't know, like levels of resolution as well, depending on like how you want to work and where you want to work. And sometimes the idea will just come to you when you're out. Or you have a shower thought, or you're in the car. You can execute on those things quite quickly. And like some of those things can be done at like relatively low resolution. You can have a bird's eye view of it and just like talk to the agent and just be like, okay, there's a bunch of tasks that kind of make up this, the collective of the work that we need to do. And then other times I might be like, all right, no, I'm in the terminal, let's do this together, and let's get granular. And so you want that like more high resolution, haptic feedback as you're building. But that I think is going to be interesting as well for the way we all work, because then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I can choose when I'm tethered to the machine. I can choose when I'm tethered to the seat. And I think that also has like a bunch of like second and third order effects, the way work gets done. That we haven't fully contemplated yet.
I'm definitely executing a lot more work from my phone these days than I used to. I mean, I've always done it since that was the point of Wingman originally, was to get me, is like, I don't know if we talked about it on here, but like the initial animus was, I was using RU code and it was on my laptop, and I found myself like carrying my laptop around the house. So I would I'd get up from the office and I'd like go into the kitchen. I was like, I best take my laptop so I can keep the agents going. And I was just like, I remember like driving out to meet you somewhere and I had it coding alongside me in the car. So like the laptop's open, and I was like, I can't even close the laptop because it was stuck. And it was like, there's two things that need to change here. Like, one, I should be able to close the lid of the laptop and it should keep working, which means it needs to be on a different computer and I need to be using it remotely. And then two, I should be using it remotely and I should just talk to it from my phone or the laptop. And it's, it's always been a better experience on the laptop, but it's always been accessible from the phone since day one. And those two animuses were like, if a robot's doing the fucking work, why am I the schmuck sat in a chair?
Exactly.
Like, it's just like, I'm not a battery. Like, it's just, I should not be the little Homer Simpson bird pressing yes.
Well, that's the job function we're talking about being most at risk, just generally, right? It's the person that's sitting in the middle, pushing work through, being the glue. Like, that's exactly what we're trying to like liberate ourselves from as well with these tools.
Well, and there's two angles there, right? Because part of the software, and I think there's a point about, do we think of software wrong? Which I'll circle back to as I'm doing this. But like, there's two bits of work that are going on. Sometimes it's that I'm just pressing yes to progress the thing so it doesn't stop. But then there's also the thinking about, what is the correct thing to build here? And then what do I do next after this? And how do I consider this new thing? And like, what's the opportunity in the commercialization thing? Does it exist? Should it exist? Like all of that stuff is, it's still like person-driven work, because you need to be sort of experiencing the world and embodied and everything we talked about before to even have these as concerns. But it's different to just the manual pushing the work through. But the work still needs that to keep going. So there is this like tension of those two bits. Now, the bit I was going to say about software engineering that I've been thinking about was, like, I think sometimes when we talk, like, writing software of agents, I think, is just so enormously important. But it sounds like it's not for you, like Mr. Generic person in the world, because you don't write software. And I wonder if there's like a weird framing thing, because everybody sort of writes software, even like a manual or an operating procedure is kind of like software. It's just instructions to do something. And the idea of, I was wondering if there's something around the framing where we say like the job of software engineers was never coding. It was supposed to be, and this is like how you would learn it, and it's what you know if you know good ones versus bad ones, is it's not your ability to write specific syntax and code. That's just something you had to do. But the job was always to understand and solve problems and be good at that level of thinking and understanding the problem from multiple different angles and expressing it in different ways and figuring out the failure modes. And then you encode the answer to that in the code, which is the encoding. And like in the similar way that, like, you know, if you were a manager or an operating manager inside a business, you understand problems and then you define a solution and then you encode that solution into sets of language, like the software engineer does, that is a set of words that people are supposed to follow. And then the only difference is that it's with the software, it's the computer follows it. And because computers are deterministic by their nature, if you solve it in a way that they can follow completely in software, then it's great. It'll do the same thing every time, and it's very high leverage to be able to do that. But it was always about solving problems and then encoding the answer in some sort of set of words that does it. And I feel like that's like what people need to realize, is that like when we say you should use agents to create software, it's more that you should write operating procedures for your business that run on a computer instead of a human. And the difference is that it used to be that you would do that and you'd write stuff down and you tell people to go to this app and then go to this app and then go to this app. The difference is you probably don't need any of the apps anymore because the human isn't the driver. You encode the business into a layer of software that runs these things. Like it's something, there's something like that that I think is missing, because when we think software, we think like, oh look, I don't want to create an app and go and get 1 million users. Because that's the zeitgeist of the last 10 years of software development. But it's really not what I think we need to be thinking about with agents. Does that register at all or not?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a similar problem with the question of how you use agents inside the business just generally. You know, like I think everyone, and this is we kind of talked about this a little bit last week with Deadman, but it's like the fully autonomous versus like deterministic like architecture decision making as well inside the business. Like a lot of this stuff is just like how well do you understand the business rather than just like throwing intelligence autonomously at the business, which like if you think about it, like businesses function with a set of processes, systems, people, job titles, permissions. There's all of this structure, infrastructure that exists in the business, and the infrastructure is there as a way of like creating some degree of repeatability and predictability to extract value from intelligence. It's just that the intelligence in the past was just the human. So how do we get the human functioning to a level where we can get like some kind of output predictably and reliably? And that's why they exist. And and this is why I think like a lot of the application of AI in the business is just going to be down to like how well do you understand your business so that you can design systems for agents to work in roughly the same way. And that stuff is not just throw autonomous agents like OpenClaw at your business, let it run loose.
Well, one way of maybe making that point is that like, so people have this like, I think correct intuition where they go, oh, I can just spend like X $1,000 on tokens and credits and different agent systems and I can throw them at this thing, and that used to be a team of 5 people, so that's cheaper. And you go, and what you do is you define like what those 5 people would have done in enough words, and you throw them at these agents, and then they can figure it out quicker than the people did and deliver cheaper over a similar period of time. And you go, this is like 100 times cheaper than running it in human software. I can run it in agent software. Now the difference is I could come along and go, oh, what those agents are doing is they're figuring it out every time they run They're redoing work over and over and over again. And they actually don't need to make that many decisions. And most of this can just be software.
Yep.
And I'll move it into software. And I will then undercut your agent business because it all runs in software. And the software is going to be 100 times cheaper than the agent.
Exactly.
Agents are very expensive ways to run software. This is not the way to do it. They are like point intelligence and thinking and inference and translation machines. They are not like...
Yeah.
There's not the end goal. It's
like,
not the end state, if you know what I mean. Like
it's like hiring a nuclear physicist to take out your garbage from the office. Like, it's just not. That's a misallocation of resources.
Yeah. And so if you're at that level of the business now, where you're going like, you know what, I could just chuck agents into this business. Like, yes, you could, but the real goal is you chuck software in.
Yeah.
So you leverage the agent to write the software to do the job, so that it just gets done in the same way every time. It's like the point of encoding stuff is to fix it the same way every time. Like, the job of the engineer was to solve the problem. The software component is like software engineering, 2 words, right? So the engineering bit is solving problems, and the software bit is making sure you never have to solve the problem again.
Yeah.
Just like I will solve the problem and I will encode it, so I never have to deal with this again. I solve the problem, I encode it, I never have to deal with it again. Should be the same in your business.
Yeah.
Like, you are the software engineer of your business. Even if you wrote like standard operating procedures, you did something, you figured out that was the wrong way to do it, so you wrote a procedure so that you never did it wrong again. Now, the problem that you have is that people don't read procedures. Different problem. Agents also don't read procedures.
Apparently.
This is what everybody running OpenClaw is going to realize, and why they go, it's like I need some sort of like standard operating procedures for these agents. Like, yes, you need software. Yeah. It's the point. You need to restrict and define what you do. So the goal of agents will be to write software effectively for your business, and then some of them will make stuff. But it's like I think there's going to be like more. There's more payoff for having a software coding agent than there is from having like a legal agent.
Yes.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the legal work will come down to workflows and hands and systems and scripts.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because it's so much cheaper. It's also good, like scripts and software are very good at the things that people get pissed off at agents for and AIs, right? They're very good at looking up, what's that fact?
Yeah.
What time is it? Like, what's in the news? Like, all of these things can be looked up.
It's inserting intelligence just at the right part of the process. That's the key. And that's like a systems design problem, which I think is like really fascinating. But what's interesting is like this also supports something that we said like right in the first or second podcast episode that we ever did. We like talked about the business being the vector. Like the business is how you go and capture the value. And I actually think it's part of that encoding that makes it valuable. You know, because you could just have a bunch of agents that, like, you could just OpenClaw a company, but it wouldn't be the most efficient way to go and run that company.
No, somebody else can come and undercut you.
Exactly.
You might think that you're doing it efficiently because it's more efficient than people.
Correct.
But even a company that has a bunch of people can just write the software for this. And go, you know what, we can write the software now. And then they will have people do those point jobs. But the rest of the business just runs on hardware and therefore is
already being run like this. It's just you've got a human in a seat that is doing a bunch of like really deterministic things at given periods of time. You know, like I mentioned this last week at Deadman, like I worked in banking. There was a bunch of roles that existed in the bank that was just this. You know, like at this point in the day, you have to make sure that this particular thing is done. Yeah. And, you know, it has to be done between 2 and 4. Can't be done after 4 because then it'll be too late for the East Coast. And like there's a bunch of different things.
So you would,
and it was just like,
sorry,
these are just things that you could script. Like they didn't even need to be, like AI is not even something you need to really consider to make that like operationally 100-fold better.
Yeah, the only reason you would, I think we said like last time, like the reason you throw AI at that is because if you have a very, very, very like wide and unrestricted AI, you can just solve that instantly. Like it's nuts that you can just have an OpenClaw and say, can you do this? And it does, and you go, shit. What should be happening next is the next step of now encode that so you never have to go through that learning process again. Because that learning process, actually, you know, like it's included in your Claude Code subscription. Under the hood, it probably costs you like $500. So you don't want to spend $500 of inference every time you ask that question. You want to spend 20 cents of compute time. which is way cheaper.
Yeah.
So you should do that. Like that's why you take that extra step. So you would say then that the end goal of an efficient business would be the entire business runs on software and hardware, and then there are escalation points which come up to agents, and if the agent can't solve it, then it comes up to the human. And then your job is to own that business.
Yeah.
And then the reason for that business to exist is it needs to solve a problem that some other business or another person has. So your goal is to be in the world, which is again like an early concept of ours, is your goal is to be the qualia. Your goal is to figure out like what's the thing that is wrong with the world and how can I instruct these robots to fix it.
Yeah.
And then you sell their solution.
It's another reason why I've been like quite bullish on people having those like deep skills, and they're not going to disappear because they understand the businesses they run for the most part. You know, they understand their particular workflow and they understand how that tends to link together inside, you know, an operating vehicle like business to bring a bunch of people together to do this. Like, I think that's still going to be useful if you are, so long as you have agency, I think. You know, if like you're the kind of person that's waiting for instruction, then yeah, you're probably not going to be thinking about this at all anyway.
I think everybody has agency to a certain extent in various parts of their life, right? I think just because a lot of people don't, like, it's a lot of risk is the problem. I think that holds most people back from having huge agency.
Yeah.
I think, like, because you go to somewhere like, I don't know, I find Vietnam quite an interesting country because it is ostensibly communist, but it's like the most like hyper-capitalist place. Like, I think China's a little bit like this as well, right? Which is that, for the elites in the country, it's all just bribes, backhanders, and corruption, and like classic communism. But if you're just like Joe Schmuck, you're fucked. So do you have agency? Fuck you do, because otherwise you don't eat. So everybody's got like a little shop or a little like they've got something. They're like, all right, I'm going to do something. I can cook dumplings. I'll start with dumplings, right? And that's what we do. We'll just stick them outside the house, and every now and then there's enough people around that they'll walk past and go, oh yeah, I can have a dumpling for that price. That's good. And so it's just businesses everywhere because kind of everybody has to. And then when they try and bring, I talked to some people when we were over there recently, and they're like, yeah, if you try to like bring in supermarkets, and everyone's like, I don't know what this is. Yeah. Like nobody. It's like why would I do that? I would just eat on the way home because this guy's already gone and done the stuff. And so I can imagine our economy looking more like that in the future, where it probably will look like something like Vietnam, because there will be this protected, like corrupt bullshit layer at the top, where people are just like using the government to. It's like something like OpenAI and Anthropic. Like the whole game is just enforcing censorship into these things, like and scare everybody enough so that we're the only people that are allowed to run these models, and therefore we try and capture this market. And that stuff is going to be hard to go away. Or the medical industry or the legal industry is like everybody's law will actually be done by a bunch of robots, and no one's going to follow any of these rules. It's going to be nonsense. But there'll be this like protected class of people just mooching off everybody else in society. And then I think you end up with like just way like somebody needs to eat. Yeah. And I think everybody will find that they have huge amount of agency at the time. He's for everybody else. Yeah. It's getting out of a crowded theatre. The best place to be is outside.
The only caveat I would put on the trajectory is like, while Vietnam is a good example of this, like how people emerged from essentially being largely rural, moving into the cities. I think immediately the Soviet Union and the status pollution and what that would do, social decay, really high suicide rates, high rates of alcoholism.
I can see that. I'm never arguing that.
No, I'm only saying that I think that's like something that needs to be factored, because the bit that's missing in the example that was more emphasized the expression of status, like a lot of status from their job title and their identity is baked into what they do. And so I can see that hitting pretty hard.
I mean, the difference in Vietnam is all the old people were murdered.
Well, that's exactly that too. Yeah. So, yeah, it's messy. But yeah, I think you're right. Ultimately,
I guess my point would be that I think that's the shape of the image.
Yeah.
And then, but like the next analogy that I used there was okay, so it's on fire, and outside it's like Vietnam, but inside it's on fire. It does look more so. Yeah. You know, it is that. It's the bit of Vietnam before the war. Yeah. You know, you still went through the war to get to this bit where they rearranged the war and the Soviets. It was after the revolution, like messy. I think that's true. Like, I think there's a lot of people that have jobs unfortunately, that they don't. It doesn't mean that be here.
Yeah.
When you're actually doing stuff, you're making decisions,
Yeah.
you regain this agency. But back is beat out of society. You're the weirdo.
Yeah.
You go after this. Like, I mean, I kind of look to like somewhere like Vietnam. Well, that's what people do when they have to. So this is what we'll do here. Well, but like that is horrible.
Yeah.
I felt good if there is. As I said, the best place to be is not in the building. So if you suspect the building's about to come fire, look, just tell people to get out. We're saying that we got out, we're trying to tell the building's going beyond fire, and you don't leave us. It's just fine. Like, you come to your own conclusion. It's the point, the stampede. But like I say, is at least by maybe reposition yourself so you know what, if this is going to happen, rather by the door. There's some people are going to the bar.
That's it.
They're the ones that are levering up on 30 years debt or something. Like, it's going to be a real stretch for the next 20 years. But as long as my job goes like the last 20 years, it's like, that's just a big thing.
What I would say is maybe the big monopolist value right now is kind of getting enamored by autonomous agents. That's a sexy thing. And I think the issue is getting to the points where you need to insert that intelligence. And don't overlook how valuable the kind of technique is, because they're unexplored anyway. And that is something that agents piece together, like operate out fuzzies, but humans operate to go and map or identify, like, essentially things that we're, these are workflows, these are the artifacts, this is where easy people do what. Without that can take, that's just a pipeline, like it's going to create, but actually there's the bit in between the two, where it's something coordinating.
Well, and it's so, you need to look at that view that you need to do it like that. So it's too hard to do management from scratch. So you're probably better off with a business problem space. And you solve the problems as you go, but you just bear in what doesn't have to be this shape, might be this shape, because like we use the analogy, like the big haul pack trucks, the mines, like why are they size? And it's like, well, that size because any bigger than that, it's not fit from a maintenance pool and rest of the deal. Any smaller, more people drive them. So that was the sort of as big as it was that local mate driving to the size. Well, human question is, well, do they still need to like now? Money pitch later. Well, 5 years ago, have the. I know it is because I told people like what but it's a bit hard to think like that. But it naturally, it's like, what's Chess doing over here? You shouldn't just remove which is the tree I talked about for a while.
OG fans of one
The Chess is the inverse, which is don't assume that because there it was for a good reason. There's lots of where there was a good reason, the reason changed, and I'm good for these. But it's not. Just remove this because later there's a reason. It's like sometimes. It's just a bit of like, where it's like a message is not actually required. Actually, just something that can remove. Not as clickbaity as another time.
No, but I think it's like a good way to look. Also, it should be other people now. Because, okay, like maybe I don't need to be thinking about how do I hand off work. I've got autonomous agents and systems, and instead, what I'll be doing is natural gains approach. It's like why should people buy donks with the points? What I'm having a challenge with, like I did this recently, our company's tax. It's like I still want an agent so that I could of like dependently being able to rely on it to output things like statements and stuff like that, so we could put in our tax. And that's fun because I was case of me going, it's something you need to go do with the statements and just knock yourself out, because I figured like I would have to go and reverse engineer it anyway. And my might, if I just did it alongside the agent, and then now I can just give it to the agent and it will do it. And like I got D8 certainty that's secure. And I'll still go wrong, obviously, but way easy in trying to do it. Those little things. So that's I would do that. No one wants to do that work. Maybe I don't have to. I can hand this off to an agent. And so
it's the problem.
Exactly.
Which point you just suppress. You do this to like minimal degree in software and the internet. It's the same how much we reuse stuff. Like more so than we use it. Like even in your website, all stuff reinvented or like we put together. Whereas you can, it's easier to like information like how you're doing stuff. It's a company, and I could be the version in for version in Brazil. And it's not pretty bad. So, you think that there are these just like a lot of like the shelling point of the stick them in the neck. It's hard to share stuff. Maybe you already know the answer. I think you're going to like graduate more and more tools. Again, like AI success, internet, like these public grants, like all this has been my job. Like I'll send books, or I can help me tend to you're not reinventing. You're not always pushing the boundary. It's going to get insane. But there's always a built-in system.
I think. The limits I was thinking, like, for example, like if you're a book, if you are basically doing a job and everything. But this is what you're thinking a lot. Sorry, that's you don't do work because you kind of you could have service, you have compliance, you had X number of you kind of work. You could go and all of a sudden you're not working just maybe and do you We'll leave it when it happens, and see the process, falls well. And so there's a bunch of like patients.
Yeah, but correct number.
Yeah.
They each have like things that they're worried about, like amongst them. Maybe we just don't need. But yeah, I think we start. Like, imagine that's not going to be the thing. Just maybe like I don't know, whole fan like there are still okay, and you could do something. Right there. There's a fantasy that everybody doesn't talk about. It's the rational. In some way, sounds worse. Like you have if you need stuff. It means that you spend the time software to do it. Your software is just
yeah.
It's like a better software. Software is like people think I don't create all. You already never see all this work. It's like things. It's just you like it always. Really, software. That's how it gets there. Problems as the software.
I think a lot of this stuff will absorb all that thing. Like we got pod by talking about cheating on system. I think it will work.
They might good these cheat.
Yeah. Probably don't work just to move. And actually, that is the best version of competency because that way you do the job and do the PF.
That's this. Okay. Just nice. I want to turn in sessions less often, wasn't it? But sometimes well, a bit there. Like good 5 minutes.
Games. Do you have like kind of sling concern or just like don't want to like buy a house?